plans. I wanted to do good. My 5.5 years in America transformed me and gave me a completely different way of thinking about myself and about my fellow human beings. What to play a part was, what to be a good citizen was, what to be respected was. It was not easy to come back and try to reflect that in my society. My society had hardly changed, but I had been completely changed. When I went back home, I was constantly being reminded I'm an African woman, and so there are certain things I shouldn't do, certain ambitions that I should not entertain. That was a problem for me because I had never thought of myself as an African woman. I never thought of myself as a woman to begin with. For me, the limit was my capacity, my capability.
The male was considered to be the sage of the family. Women were not sages. So if the male is the sage, then he is the source of wisdom. Women followed. But I suspect that Wangari didn't always follow, that she probably decided, wait a minute, now I have my own view on this matter. In a period of a couple of years, she had the divorce. She was denied the opportunity to go into Parliament, and she lost her professorial position at the University of Nairobi.
I'm really in deep debt because I've gone through a divorce that was very bad, and I have paid my lawyers through my nose, and I am broke to the bone. We were at a swimming pool, and the children wanted chips and sausages. And I said, I don't have any money. To be without money, and your child wants chips and sausages, and you can't buy. And he doesn't understand how you cannot have money, so he starts crying. Life is a struggle. You walk along it, and you hope that things will be absolutely wonderful. And sometimes they aren't. You wake up one morning, and you realize that you don't have a family, that your family has disintegrated, that the man in your life has disappeared, and you wonder what happened. So, picking myself by my strings is my way of making sure that no matter how desperate a situation seems, that I don't completely give up. In many ways, this influenced the way I walked ever after. Would I really have stood up as long as I did if he was there? I do not know, but I'm quite sure the path would have been very different.
There isn't much else to lose, is there? So now we can just do what we feel is the right thing to do. And that made for a certain freedom, in a sense, because then she felt the strength to follow her own ideals and conscience.
We see corruption, we see fraud, we see government mistreating its citizens to the fullest.
During the darkest period when nobody would talk, too afraid, when the government was a terror government, it is a credit to those few people that kept the light burning in the dark. And Wangari's credit is that when she found that there is no alternative but to ask policy and political questions, she quickly stepped to the podium and militantly continued to fight for democracy.
We are dealing here with a government that is violating the law. I think that the government has a case to answer. What we are experiencing is harassment. It's sheer harassment.
Why are you arresting him?
We are denied the basics, the fundamentals that make a human being what a human being ought to be. That your life is guarded wherever you are. There's somebody following you. You can't act. You can't do anything else. Anything perceived to be anti-government by the cronies of that system was subject to kind of ruthless, torturous denial of basics. Fear.
I was in prison for 6 years, and the charges were sabotage, belonging to another ground organization, and publishing seditious publications.
Who is going to question when the government, when the police, when the law keepers break the law?
The crowd of women gathered out on Uhuru Park to pressure for the release of their sons, friends and relatives who have been imprisoned for political reasons. They walked with resolve to make their demands known.
We have come to give you this letter to request you, as the official advisor to the government, to please advise our government that the time has come for all political prisoners to be released.
We may not necessarily agree that all the people you call political prisoners.
The Attorney General listened to us. He said that the government, it will take action. But we all knew about the Moi government. It was full of lies.
No nä tweciririe ithuä enyewe tå gä ikara tå rä atumia acio aciari a ciana icio tå rä atumia arä a twanyitä irwo ciana tå gä ciria å rä a ithuä tå gwä ka nä getha tå hote gå kombora ciana icio citå.
Rĩtwa rĩakwa njĩtagwo Veronica Wambui wa Nduthu, na nĩ niĩ ũmwe warĩ harĩa Freedom Corner tũkĩrũĩrĩra ciana citũ.
Wangari nĩwe wamũrire agĩtwĩra tũgũka Freedom Corner nĩho tũgũka gũkoma.
And that's what we did. We brought our blankets and our mattresses, a few mothers and some supporters, and we said we shall wait there until the sons are released. We stayed that night. We did not eat, we only drank. And that was good because nobody needed to cook for us. And no sons came. The second day, we waited. Again the whole day, and no sons came. The third day, no sons came. By the third day, a lot of people had begun to come who were themselves victims of torture. And for the very first time in this country, people narrated the torture they had gone through. And men would cry tears as they narrated that story. People felt courageous enough to come and say, let me tell you my story. the government decided enough was enough. When the government descended on us, in that moment of desperation, women stripped, stark naked, and shook their breasts. In the African tradition, every woman who is about your mother's age is also your mother, and you must treat her with the same respect. If men beat women, it is like sons violating their mothers. And the mothers respond by cursing them. And they curse them by showing them their nakedness.
Excuse me.
Atugikihuru tuteigire Wangari ahuritwo muno tondu nie ndahonokirie andu acio tondu nie ndarutire nguo ngitigwo njaga ango no igwa kwi mutumia watigirwo njaga ni nie mwe nie ndarutire nguo ngitigwo njaga na nie ndarugire na borithi kuu muno tondu ndirutite kurwa na kura mutito-ini ndari wa mau na twakirwire nao ndeja itari nguo onginyagia borithi kiore gitigana na andu makihonoka aria makihonokire to Wangari kwanja ni ahori ni wambete kuhurwo muno ndo Wangari wandaiguaga haria ari tondu Wangari utuo hau macokire magitwarwo na atumia angi magitwarwo Nairobi Hospital. Ithuothe na aria matwarirwo Gitari na aria matwarirwo na Nyuki na aria matwarirwo ki twari Uhuru Park.
We were holding a service, the Ash Wednesday service here. And as we were going on with the service, we saw these women. They said, look, we have nowhere to go. So I very, very quickly made a decision, and I took them into the bunker, which is down below here.
People who are working, they would come there and actually see the plight of these women. And that also had to be stopped by the government. But you would get sometimes 500 people, 1,000 people assembling there, and they are talking about democratic principles, about governance. What the government of that particular time did not want is anybody who is trying to educate the common people.
We would sometimes hold political rallies, educating people on the fact that what we are doing is right and that nobody should be in jail for their political beliefs, that it is not right to have young men tortured.
That's what I wanted to share with you. So I would like you to pass that message.
Little did I know that they were to stay there for how many? Almost 11 months.
Niageretie muno uria kungihoteka atumia acio maume hau tondu twamuthiinitie muno na twaigua tutiri undu tugwika na tutikuma hau na tutikoima hau onginya muthenya uria ithu tukanengerwo ciana citu na niguo akirekanirie agikiuga tuthie na agiturania kuigura ciana citu.
There was a ceremony at the cathedral to welcome us back to freedom. She said that as far as she is concerned, all of us are her sons. She gave each one of us a huge hug to welcome us back to freedom. Of course, it was very, very touching.
And they went home with their sons 1 year later.
Ucio akwa ni acokirie akiuragwo akimuragira guku Nairobi. Ucio hetagwo Karimi, wakwetagwo Karimi ni amhuragi na mathina tuonete maingi muno tutakihota kuga ni atia.